Okay. So the Alter Rebbe now, I'll say, one of the ways to think about this, of what happens now as we start Perek as well, is that till now we were learning like what Chazal has to say. There are 5 Gedorim, Tzadik Ben Rasha. This is what they are. We brought a Gemara, we brought Psukim, we brought Mamare Chazal. Now the Alter Rebbe is gonna we're going into Chassidus. Okay, like this Perek, we talk about Avodah in the sense of, it's not about, of course you have to do Torah and Mitzvahs. But Torah and Mitzvahs, that's just one part. The other part is the Dav Zich Berechen. Alter Rebbe doesn't use the word iskafia in this Perek, but the word avodah that Chassidus brings all the time from the word Lashon Eires Avudim. I'm not a tanner. I never saw what it is. I never saw someone, whatever the Lashon is, tanning
a hide.
Tanning a hide. But what happens to the hide is a tremendous process. It's a iber gearbete Zach, right? And that's what avodah is. And avodah is like what is the Indian? The Indian is to break my teva. And I have to share this nakuda, even though it's not in the Tanya yet, and maybe it'll be fresh for both of you. It's something that I've spoken about on the show in the past. And the whole history is Nishna Ge'ed and just has a little drama. But when we went to Kfar Chabad, the first shir that we had, that Rambam Goffin gave us a shir, and I don't remember how the conversation came to this, and he asked a question. He said in Perek Tezvav, the Alter Rebbe says that when it comes to serving Hashem, what matters is that you're breaking your nature. And he asked the question, Wer darf haben dein ferdische Avodah? In other words, since when is it all about you? Since when is it about your struggle? It should be about output, right? In other words, imagine 2 people come to an employer, right? He's hiring. And the employer is like, he interviews the guy. He's like, what's my job? You have to get up early. Say, how much do you pay? $10 an hour. Great, gewaldig. The next guy comes. He's also interviewing for the job. He's like, what's the job? You have to get up early. How much do you pay? $10. He's like, listen, I understand you pay $10, but a guy like me, you got to pay $20. I'm a night owl. For me to get up early is a shvera avodah. I'll do it, but you got to pay me $20. And the guy's like, are you kidding me? Was is minigeh dynamitis? It matters to me if you're a morning guy or a night guy. I have a job that I need done. This is not about your therapy. It's like the Eibishter, this Torah and mitzvahs. Was is negeh? Since when does how difficult it is for you matter? Right? He asked that question and we jumped on him like mamish, we couldn't understand. Because that's the whole, for us, that's the way we were raised. Of course the whole point is your avodah. Like, how could you even ask such a question? We were shocked. But then we heard his answer. And his answer was so beautiful, it was so brilliant. And that's really Perek as well. He said, Hashem concealed himself in Teva. Right? The word hateva means drowning. It's submerged. Elikim is gematria hateva, 86. It's the same word. Because what is Shem Elikim? Shem Elikim is Hashem in a way of tzimtzum. He's hidden. Hashem is hidden in the nature. The fact that nature repeats itself on a daily basis, we don't see miracles. So Hashem is hidden in the nature. Now a person might turn around and say, how do you know it's Hashem? It's just nature. Who says there's something more than nature? There's just nature. The mother nature, the father nature, the spirit. I mean, there's no Holy Ghost. We're okay. How do you know it's elikus? Because you know how we know it's elikus? When someone whose nature is not to do the right thing, and they break their nature. How could you break your nature? If all there is nature, how could you break it? The fact that a person could go against their nature, that shows that there's a pneumius, that there's something else, that there's elikim. So if you have a person who likes to daven, so he's not revealing elikus. You have a guy, he likes to learn. That's Mother Nature. What does it have to do with the Eibishter? He likes to learn. He likes to daven. That's his nature. There's nothing else other than nature. How do we know there's Hashem b'chol? But when we encounter a person who doesn't want to daven, he doesn't want to learn, he hates all of it. And er brecht sich. He gets up early. He's the one who shows us that really Teva is a veil. And really underneath it's elikim. And in that way, the ordinary person is greater than a tzaddik. Because a tzaddik in his avodas Hashem does not reveal godliness. It's a beinoni. It's someone who does not want to daven who reveals a likus. He's the one revealing that really that teva is a likus. And that's why in the Lashon, we hear it. Yeah. That's why. Huh? Nee, that's just my it's not. I don't know, maybe it's upstairs. Anyway, so it's the teva, Baruch Hashem, the dafka, the person who struggles, is revealing a likus. So it's wow. Could you imagine? Till now, till Zalman gave his shir, we thought that the whole purpose of us struggling is because we're it's my iskafia. Then we learned that really the struggle is not for me, but it's for the Eibishter. And what is the Alter Rebbe brings a pasuk from Malachi. The pasuk is Oived Elikim. You are in service of Elikim. You are revealing the hidden Elikim by going against your teva. And that was an enjoyable shir. And the funny thing was that a year later, the next kvutza came, and he gave the same shir again. And the Bachrim again had a visceral reaction. And then he's like, let's do because that's like the way we were nischanech, that was the factory we were coming from. That was the brand. Anyway, lass lernen ein bisschen innovating. Perek Tezvav. Chaver, there's still room for more people around the table. There's room for expansion. Perek Tezvav. Bazeh Yuvan. We will now understand. Masher Kosov, the meaning of the pasuk V'shaftem u're'isem bein Eivid Elikim bein Tzadik l'Rosha bein Eivid Elikim l'Shavei Avada. You will see, right? You will reflect and you will see the difference between a tzaddik and a Rosha, between the Eivid Elikim and a Lo Avada, one who doesn't serve him. So the Gemara asks a question. What do you mean? These are the same. It's redundant. He's repeating himself. Tzaddik and Eivid Elikim are the same thing. Rosha and Lo Avada are the same thing. So the Gemara answers, no, there's a difference. Kan, this is talking about somebody who learns his perek 100 times, and this is someone who learns his perek 101 times. In other words, the way the pshat, I guess, how is it understood in the Gemara? Who learns it 100 times? Who learns it 101 times? That's the difference between the Eivid Elikim and the Lo Avada. But there's still a redundancy. It's still The tzaddik and the Ovid Elikim are still the same. But the Gemara asks the question, and that's what the Gemara answers one side. Okay, so the Rosha and the Le'avode are still the same. Maybe the difference between a tzaddik and a Ovid Elikim is that one does 100 on one and one does 100. I'm not sure. So he says, but now at Chassidus we get a good understanding, which fits with the Gemara. Because, of course, Sha'hefresh, the difference between Ovid Elikim Tzaddik, who, right? What's the difference? Is She'ovid Lashon Hoiva, right? Moshe Rabbeinu, when he passed away, the first pasuk in Yeshua, the first pasuk in Shoiftim, Yeshua passed away. They're both called Eved Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu was called Eved Hashem. Eved is a title, and it's past tense. I don't know. It's a title. Let's put it that way. Oived Elikim is present tense. One who is in service of Elikim. Moshe Rabbeinu says Eved Hashem, the name Yud-Ke Vav-Ke. Over here it says Oived Elikim. So it says Oived is Lashon Hoiva, present. Shehu be'emtza ha'avodah. Right? He's in the middle. What's he in the middle of? Shehi ha'mulchama im ha'yetzer hara. He's fighting with his yetzer hara. His yetzer hara is not allowing him. It's getting in the way of him serving Hashem, and he has to be his gabei olav. Ulegarshe me'ir ktana. He's pushing it away from the body. Shelo yislabish be'vari aguf. And the Alter Rebbe says, Shu be'emes avoda v'omal godol. It's tremendous work. It requires incredible exertion. Av yidir zokna haravanya. It's agresa haravanya. Lehilachim bei tamid. To always be in battle with the, this is, when we read these words, in my mind, the stories of Reb Nissen Emenov and so on, Reb Itche, all these different stories, Reb David Arodacher stories, about what it means to be mamash in a continuous, in a constant battle. This one story, I remember reading the story about the book of Nissen, about Reb Nissen Emenov. So one of the things that just rattled me, It was like one of the people who learned in France. He describes how the feeling in yeshiva Tisha B'Av after Chatzos, like the zal is empty, everybody finished kinnus, they said Elei Tzion, and now there's no seder, the zal is closed, the chairs are still turned over, the place is empty. So he was sitting in the zal, winding down, he's ready to go to his bed, and suddenly the Nissen comes in. He puts on his talis, he stands by the wall, he's like, hey, do. Right after Chatzos, and the Bacha realizes, this is the next 4 hours, this is what's gonna, the guy's like, he died. He's like starting the journey, It's Tisha B'Av Machmitov. There's no chokmah. There's no break. There's no vacation. It's like, solid. It's a tremendous avodah. Elochem Beitomid. Yeah, Rahainu HaBeinoni. That's the job of the Beinoni. We're a couple of lines in. Yeah. Aval Atzadik. So when we talk about Eved Elikim, the Eved Elikim, what was the question? The Gemara's shaila was, Eved Elikim and Tzaddik are the same thing. He's like, no, of course not. Tzaddik is a Tzaddik. Eved Elikim is a Beinoni. He's in the middle of an incredible battle. Aval Tzaddik, Nika Eved Hashem, Hashem Atoya. He has a PhD. He's a Tzaddik. K'moi Shein Chocham Melech. It's an achieved title. Shekvar Nasa Chocham Melech. Kach this person, Kvar Ovar V'Gomar Legamrei Ovad. He completed his Avodah Samachamei Mara. He completed his avodah. Ad ki v'Yigor Sheva Elachod v'Libi Cholo B'Kibi. He pushed away his Yetzer Hara. Okay, so two things. We know the famous joke. You know the joke? There was a congregation. They hired a rabbi. The next morning they come to shul. The rabbi came early. As it's the learned. Instead of being impressed, they fired him. What do you mean? You're learning on the job. Das kommen nach Fartike. Kannst du jetzt gehst du lernen? You gotta be right. So over here, when we say that the tzaddik, he already is a Eved Hashem, it's for real. The Chacham and the king, just because they already got the title, that doesn't mean they don't do it anymore. When somebody becomes the king, then they practice their kingship. But once the tzaddik becomes a tzaddik, he operates on a different level. He doesn't fight with his body anymore. It's off the table. That's in the past. That's not his challenge. Now I just want to say, when we read the text of the Alter Rebbe inside, and there's a little bit of a leap that you have to make. Because the Alter Rebbe, in the beginning, he doesn't, the way he describes it is, look, to be a Beinoni is hard because the Avtayv is being thrown at you. And you gotta, in order to keep doing Torah and mitzvahs, you have to fight. He doesn't say, by the way, fighting with your goof, dos alein, avoida. He doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, that's not in the language, but it's in the hemshech. So what did the tzaddik finish? And what did the Beinoni not finish? Oh, this battle that's just with, the nature, just, oh, you like this, do that. Like they said in Lubavitch, aglos kalte Wasser, wischt up Zenyor Aveda. In other words, when the person goes, like that geschmack. What do you mean? You got to fight. There was, I don't know who this was, when the Frierdiker Rebbe was in Atvodsk or whatever it was. So one of the Gaboyim, one of the Shamoshim, or Hizbacher, was Rabbi Greenblatt says that he was talking to the Bacher, and he said one day he prepared the Rebbe at Gehust. The Rebbe was coughing, so he prepared for the Frierdiker Rebbe. He prepared a tea with honey, a hesa tea with a honey. He prepared for the Rebbe, and he put it down. And for the way it should be for a Rebbe, with in a nice glass with a little silver little holder, in Russia, anyway, it was all very nice and fancy. Anyway, a gate by, and 10 minutes later, and the tea is getting cold. He was insulted. The stuff. He worked so hard. So he said to the Rebbe, the Rebbe is very calm. So the Frierdiker Rebbe said, "What's with the stuff?" So he said to the Rebbe that you're a Rebbe already. You don't need a skafia. So he said, "I don't need it, but I want it." Right, David?
Choice.
You're still. In other words, this is an Indian atziyu.
What you say about the skafia?
Huh? When he stopped. No, there's no escape. No, the Rebbe Rashab said that you should do escapia for other things. Here, yeah. And it's not asach maises. When we get into this field, when we get into maises about this topic, it's like onasof. There's no end to the stories here.
So the time is to do a skafia.
Safe for Shimei. So it's most likely everything that Kim is Eved Hashem is about maybe not.
That's another chazar. That's another story. But Al Koponim, that that dafke to break the what I was going to say, that we all know that when the Rebbe came to America, the Frierdiker Rebbe didn't see him for a few days. Yeah, I think they came in on the boat Monday, but it was late in the day, and they had this law on the harbor that all the ships that come after 4 or 5, whatever it is, they only come off the next morning. like the border control is closed. But Poyo, what I've heard is the Rebbe came to 770, and the Friedrich Rebbe only saw him Thursday after the Rebbe benched Hagoyman. He waited. So, Chassidim said that...
Also for his daughter? Not
Yeah.
in this area?
Right. He waited. So you say, for the Friedrich Rebbe, if you look, I say, just take a look at that book, Out of the Inferno. That Gehos put out a couple of years ago. And you'll see that on a daily basis, the Friedrich Rebbe was mishtabel for the Rebbe. This book, Out of the Inferno, every single day, from when the Friedrich Rebbe came to America, he did 2 or 3 things to try to get the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin out of it. He wrote to people, every single day. It's unbelievable. For all of us, the things that we need to do, like Pashit every single day. And of course, the Simcha that the Rebbe had, that the Friedrich Rebbe, that the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin came, but he waited. So you say, where is there an opportunity for such incredible iskafia? Like we say, Yaakov saw Yosef, he was saying Shema. The way the Rebbe explains it, there's a sikha about it. Like Yaakov, he couldn't say Shema before or after. No, it's the love that he had. He wanted to direct that to the Eibishter. There are more Tanyas in the house. All right,
I'll follow with him.
Ube Beinini. Okay, we're ready? Ube Beinini. So, point number 1 that the Alter Rebbe establishes, that a Beinini, we have to know that there's the avoida of a Yid is to fight with the guf, to fight with the nefesh habamis. And then he says, by the way, the Beinini is gam madregas. You're right. In the Beinini itself, there are 2 grades, and obviously, there's different levels. There's Reb Itcher, the Masmid levels. Reb Wolf says that in the newspaper, and they put in an ad in the newspaper that Reb Itcher Masmid is going to speak somewhere. And they wrote something about the Maskil, Chassidus, whatever, Beinani, I don't know, something. The Friedrich Rebbe wrote Tzaddik. Cross down. In other words, I get this is a very tricky subject because we don't want to get with the Sfarim. Every word the Friedrich Rebbe says is it's not for marketing purposes. But no, there's also such an union of tzaddik. But Beinani is gamkin shtei madreges. By a Beinani, there are also 2 types of Beinani. There's a Oived Elikim. There's a Beinani who's fighting a war. He's in a milchama, and there's also a Beinani that's loyafadi, going back to the pasuk in Malachi. What does that mean? He's not a servant of Hashem. What does it mean? V'afal pikein einei rasha. He's not a rasha, meaning the pasuk is not redundant. There's a rasha and there's a loyavadi. The rasha is a rasha. He does averis. The loyavadi does not do averis. Kile avar miyomov shum avera kala. V'gam kiyem kol ha-mitzvahs she'efshar lo l'kaimon. He does every mitzvah he can. V'talmud Torah k'neged kulam. I don't mean to ask a sensitive question. Have you ever been in a school? You know what a goody is? Yeah, you know such a thing?
Always good.
In every school, there's goodies. They do everything. They come on time by davening. They do everything. And the Rebbe gives out a sheet. They fill it out. Could you believe it? When they give homework, they take it home. They bring it. It's like amazing. There's such people. There's Beinanim. But it's a teva. It's a nature. They're a goody. I'm not saying it's not a people-pleasing thing. It's not a bad thing. They do the right thing. Like, that's how they do it. The Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. They learn Torah all the time. Meaning, they love learning Torah. He never stops learning. He has a geschmack in learning Torah. Elo. He's not waging a war. He's not going against his nature. He's not wrestling with himself. So, there's no war to win. Al yedei oir Hashem, hameir al nefesh ha'alikis shebemoyach, hashalet al alev kenal. So here, there's a nuanced thing that happens here. So, and Alter Rebbe is really, he says, the Beinoni he's not getting in touch with a certain part of him. Right? A certain part of him is not, what part? He's not getting in touch with the Me'ach Shalat Alev, he's not getting in touch with this Eir Hashem. So, and then we'll see soon. When we speak in Chassidus, when we speak about his Beinonus, so for a person to give birth to Avos Hashem, he has to be Mizbeinen in Gadlos Hashem. Okay? Yeah? That's his Beinonus, Gadlos Hashem. Then there's to awaken the Avativis. To awaken the Avativis is like, let's say, you have a child, a biological child was separated at birth. At 20 years old, we introduce him to his sibling that he hasn't seen in 20 years. He never saw him. All the things that, the relationship and the connection, right? All the things that usually form a connection, he doesn't have. But so what's the Isbeinus? How do they, usually what happens is they're very open and they embrace the other person and it's like, I love you. What? Because we accept that when there's kinship, you're supposed to love. Right? Isn't it? I mean, you might find out a little later that it's a horrible guy. But for right now, you're very open. So whenever the Rebbe speaks in Tanya about the Avativis, he speaks about it, what are you thinking about? You have to be ma'oder your Avativis. What are you thinking about? You're thinking about the fact that we have an Avativis. Meaning, my neshama is a part of Hashem. If Hashem is a part of me, I should love Him. You understand what? It's like we're pulling strings on what's already, people already have feelings about. What, you understand what I'm saying? You're just thinking about, oh, I love you. I'm thinking, because we're connected. So that's like a very basic, oh, who are you? Okay, so in other words, when he said lahavdil, when he said ask not what you can do, what your country could do, ask what's the whole thing of patriotism? You're playing on sentiments that people already have in their programming. You're not trying to invent a new. That's the Avativis. Whenever the Alter Rebbe says, I want you, let's be moilid a new Ava. Yeah, I want you to be Mizbeinen, a real Hizbeinus. Then he uses the Lashon Gadlus Hashem. You have to think about something that's going to give you, that you're going to be awed by. Today, there's very little that awes us. Because, we have these images, we have pictures of space and the cosmos and everyone knows about the whole world and you know what I mean? Like our imagination, it's not like the story when they said that the guy was raised in the shtetl and he heard that there's water, like he never saw the water. He heard that there's an ocean. And then when he saw it, he was overwhelmed. Like today, jeder einert gesehen die ganze Welt. So for us, to be Mizbeinen and Gadlus, you have to take it to a whole different level. You have to really, break it out. When you're Mizbeinen in the Gadlus of Hashem, then the Nefesh Elikis, you're bringing the Nefesh Elikis to love Hashem. You're activating this a new connection, and the Nefesh HaBahamis also he gets a little bit of a erosion from that Avos Hashem. When you awaken the natural Ava, it has nothing to do with the Nefesh HaBahamis. Only the Nefesh Elikis feels like a cousin to Hashem. The Nefesh HaBahamis is alienated. He has no shayfus. So you're not impacting the nefesh habamas. And this is an important. So the Alter Rebbe says like this: if you want to become powerful as a Beinoni, if you want to conquer your body, you need more. You need godless Hashem. You need real Hizbainis. You need something that's gonna shift your nefesh habahamas. It's like you have to become more intelligent. You know, like you have to become an intelligent consumer. You can't just keep living your life. If you're only me'eder the avativis, then you're not going to fight. You're not going to make inroads into the nefesh habahamas. So let's take a look what he says. Let's read it inside. So first, Alter Rebbe describes the lo yavodei beinoni. There's a Beinoni who doesn't need extra power. Why mipnei? She'ein yitzrei oimed lenegdei klal. Because the Yetzer Hara doesn't get in the way. It doesn't interfere. Levak loy mitirase v'avidase. It doesn't stop him from learning and davening. Ve'ein tzorech lilchem imay klal. But the Alter Rebbe says, even a small fight is worth a lot. If a person says, right, this is why in yeshiva it's like such a big deal. When davening ends, everyone charges to the kitchen. There's like this clipper, you know, like you have to be the first online.
Yeshiva, you can put any program, any buffet.
So
Can we show me?
Adults are talking about.
right. If like a little bit of pause, right? A little bit of pause. I'll just mention this again. When you talk about these things, there's so many mices. You know, Shabbos morning at the Ivy League, the Tanya Chapter used to be there, used to come a lot because his daughter was there. So Shabbos morning, everyone stands around making coffee, right? So what's everyone's goal? Everyone's goal is to make the coffee in such a way that it should be as warm as possible, right? You're trying to chaparain. It should be. It's Shabbos morning. You have to do kli shlishi, but it should be warm. Anyway, so he stands around. He comes, and everyone he draws everyone's attention. Everyone becomes like, you know what I mean? Like so he puts the water in a cup, and then he stands around and he talks to you, and you're like, hey, it's gonna get cold. Then he's like, wait, let me get a spoon. And this is like a 10-minute thing, right? Everyone has like this urgency. You got, and he's like, okay. Oh, there's milk. Okay. It's like I'm not in a rush. What does the Alter Rebbe write in Perek of Zion? People eat at 10 o'clock. People eat breakfast. Okay, he's going to learn 11 o'clock, and the Vaile is going to learn. So here the Alter Rebbe says, "Ein tzarech luchem imay klal." If there's any milchama that you need, then you're tapping into the Ovid Elikim mode. It doesn't have to be that you're fighting Pisim and Ramses, but put up a fight, you know. The famous Maisa that there was a guy that was Dereinza by the Alter Rebbe's Chassidim. There was a Yid that was coming around that was a known Baal Aveira. And it was causing, it was like a bad reputation for the Chassidim, that the Misnagdim in the city were saying, oh, he's also like, this is what Chassidim look like. This is where they hang out at night and whatever. So they didn't want him to hang around. They asked him not to come. The Alter Rebbe was very upset. The Alter Rebbe said, if you would know how great the Eibishter's Tainug is, one time that he doesn't do an Aveira. Right? So, Iskafia, Epes HaMolchama.
Maybe pizza fight, I know.
Kegain, Show Masmid Belimudei B'Tivei, Miteldase, a person who was born, he loves to learn. I mean, we look, even in the Goyisha Welt, right, and the philosophers, there were people who naturally loved Seichel, right? They abandoned, they didn't think about hygiene, they didn't think about showering, changing their clothing, shoes. They were like monks meditating. That's what they loved. That was their life. There were such people. I mean, from the billions of people on the planet, who knows? Maybe there are people like this today. And this is mitel dasi. That's the way they were born. Al yedei tigbeiras hamara shchayra. That's mara shchayra. This idea that you know what, the mara is the spleen. So there's a mara shchayra, mara levaina. Mara levaina means a person who's a freilach, outgoing personality. You know, it's hard for them to sit still. It's hard for them to focus on learning. Then you have people that are more like a darker personality. They're more introverted. You know, they're not looking for action. They like to sit and learn. They like the books. I mean, you have today kids, you go to school. Some kids during recess, they read. During lunch, they're reading. You come home, some kids, they're reading. A whole day reading.
Because it's phlegmatics, right? Phlegmatics.
I don't know.
It's four types, temperament.
Uh-huh.
Melancholy.
So this is a little bit in the melancholy. Huh?
I think phlegmatics. Phlegmatics is a very in north, introvert, and is one place.
So the chain, ein le milchama mitayvus noshim. It doesn't. It's not something that draws him. He's not drawn to this taiva. He doesn't have to fight with it. He's cold naturally. He's not a passionate person. Right? It's not someone who feels himself, who's always, I need, I want, he's always seeking comfort. I was learning a mimer. We were in Eretz Yisrael. So we were learning a mimer of the Frierdiker Rebbe. And the Frierdiker Rebbe, in that mimer, he talks about Balei Taiva. And he says that with a Baal Taiva, it doesn't matter what they're enjoying. What's important is that they're enjoying. Like, it could be the silliest thing. And when we were talking about it, we were like, you ever see these people who talk about like their flavor gum? Not the flavor, the type. You know, like this gum, the texture, the flavor, the place. It's like a narishkeit, right? But whatever, it's a koch. And then Shabbos, we left Yeshiva, we went to whatever, we traveled somewhere, and then we were in Shul. A Balabas invited us to come eat. And it was a walk from the Shul to his house, you know, whatever it is. Anyway, on the way, he's telling us about fantastic. It was like we weren't herring eaters. He was describing. He was so like he was so involved. It was like, you know, just jumping out of the page. What the Frierdiker Rebbe is describing. I know I have to look at myself. Now, it came out a characteristic, a story. But you have a person. He's mechusser hergish anoah b'tiva. He's not. Doesn't matter. Like it's like he's not even going to ask, what are we going to have for lunch? Say, well, you know, ask my wife. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter. The lochein, being that in inyonim of the world, he doesn't have excitement. He's not passionate. He enjoys learning. So ein tzarich lehizbeinim kol kach b'gdulas Hashem. You see, the Alter Rebbe says here, in Gadlus Hashem, he doesn't have to be mizbeinim. I'll talk about why he says kol kach in a minute. Lahoylid nibinase ruach das, to really develop an understanding, knowledge of Hashem, which will lead, the das will lead to Yiras Hashem, b'moichei. And that Yira will keep him to abstain, li'ishomer, shalei laver al mitzvahs leisase. And the das will also bring him to avas Hashem b'libay, v'dofka b'kiyum ha-mitzvahs, v'talmud Torah keneged kulan. He doesn't need that his beinus in Gdulas Hashem. Why does the Alter Rebbe say kol kach? Because the Alter Rebbe is going to talk about later on. He's going to say that at the end of the day, even if you enjoy learning, but you enjoy you more than you're learning. Like every person.
You need to love yourself more, or you enjoy it?
Like to take care of you.
Like a good shower.
Yeah, so the fact that you're deciding to give your whole day to learning, you need some motive. Like, there has to be some motivation. Like, not stam, and he learns the whole day. Why? Because he enjoys learning. And for yourself, nothing. Something there has to be. But al kopanim, elo dailoi. It's enough for him. Ba'ava mesuteres. Asher b'leiv kol Yisrael. That's like this ava mesuteres is the goody. It's like when you ask a good kid, why are you a good kid? It's like a silly question. What do you mean, why? I'm doing what's right. Is that like you're asking me, why am I doing what's right? What does it mean when you say it's the right thing to do? So that's why I do it. It's like you don't have to be a genius. That's the ava mesuteres. Of course. It's like, that's what my parents want. That's what the Eibishter wants. That's what I do.
She doesn't know different.
It's not complicated. Shenikru Eah V'Shmoi, Yidden are called, we love the Eibishter. V'lachein, because all he needs is the Ava Mesuteres, Ein Nikra Eivet Klal. That's not an Eivet. Because that Ava you didn't make. That Ava is in your DNA. The Eibishter gave it to you. So therefore, it's not your Avodah. The Ava Zu Mesuteres, Eino Pulosoi. It's not your action. And it's not Avedosa, you didn't work for it. Klal. Elohi, Yiroshasenu, Me'aveseinu, L'Klal Yisrael. U'kumeshi Yisbar L'Kamon. The Alter Rebbe is going to explain in Perek Yud Ches that the Avis, Avraham Avinu gave, he bequeathed to every Yid an inheritance. Ava Mesuteres. So, he's not called an Ovid in any way whatsoever. He's called Lo Yavadai because he didn't put in the Kefis. The Alter Rebbe continues. And I want you to know, the Alter Rebbe says, that af me, even a person, he wasn't born naturally as a person who loves learning. But he got used to it. He developed a taste for learning. And now he has a hergel, he's used to it, little bit basmada gedolah. He timed it. It's like you have kids. They can't pay attention in class. It's just impossible. They just daydream, hours and hours. Imagine someone comes, teaches the kid, do 5 minutes in the beginning, so you're not lost. Maybe take a little notes. Maybe, after 10 minutes, ask him to recap. It'll be like a trick. Right? Imagine you give a kid, right? You give him some tools.
The support.
Yeah. And then, mitamol, and he's like, wow. Today, right? Noch a bissel. And suddenly, he got it, and he's able to learn Basmada Gedolah. This is a second nature. He developed himself. So then, even though when he started this journey, he needed Avas Hashem for real, even though to get on the bandwagon, he needed his Beinenus and Gadlus Hashem, and Iskafia, but now that it's a nature, Dailoi Ba'ava Mesuteresu. For him, the Ava Mesuteres is enough. He's back to being a goody. Elohim Kain, unless he wants to push himself, unless he wants to raise the bar, then he needs to get deeper koiches. Then he needs to have that his beinus. So this. Right, so the Alter Rebbe, so that's the idea. The Lo Yavodeh, the Alter Rebbe laid it out. So now the Alter Rebbe says, "Yuvan, the last chelak of the perek." Now we're going to understand. Ma'asha Amru b'Gemara. The Gemara explains. What's the Gemara's answer? The Gemara asked that Eved Elikim and Tzaddik are the same thing. Why do you have to repeat it? Why does the pasuk have to repeat it? So what does the Gemara say? The Gemara says that Eved Elikim is Misha Sheina Pirkei Mea Pa'amim Ve'echad. If you learn 101 times, and the Lo Yavadai Haina Misha Sheina Pirkei Mea Pa'amim Levad, if you only learn it 100 times. So he says, that's really that one time. Said, yeah. Well, what's all of this about? V'hainu mishum. The reason for this is as follows: Shebiyimeim, those days when Torah Shabbal Peh was by heart. Everyone had to memorize everything. So, Imagine you have to remember everything about that. So they had to learn everything 100 times. Kediza, right? They had to learn 100 times. That was the Regilus. So now when you learn 101 times, you're going more than the Regilus. And the Gemara brings a moshel there. Kedisa awesome the Gemara. The Gemara says, moshel mishuk shel chamor. Right? There's a moshel, there's the taxis. Right? You have these donkeys, they're there to carry a load. It's like, what do you have over here with a taxi? The local taxi, right, it used to be $4, now it's $7. What is it now?
Even with the delivery, within the zone, we'll deliver for free.
Oh. Yes.
Out of the zone is triple the price.
Oh, so the local, right? Once you go out, you're going to the airport. Sometimes to go up Kingston takes 20 minutes. 30 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
But to go to the airport, metamo $50. But the Gemara, the example that he brings there in the Gemara is that they have all these donkeys ready for hire. If you're staying within the city, it's 1 zuz. If you're going out of the city, it's 2 zuz. So let's see what the Gemara says. Marshal mishuk shel chamor. Sheniskorim, they get rented out. Le'eser parse bezuzah. But ula achad oser parse, if it's 11 parse, b'trei zuzah. You have to pay twice the amount. Why? Because for the animals, mipnei shehu yeser mergilusam. Because you're pushing them more than what they're accustomed to. So what's so important? Why does the Gemara have to bring a moshel? What value does this moshel bring? So the Alter Rebbe explains, v'lachein.
So the Reglusum is referring to the beast, not to the taxi driver?
For the donkey.
For the chumar.
Yeah, that's what I verstehe. Okay. Yeah. So Zoi Sapam Ameh V'achas. The 101st time, the additional time, Hayaseira al Haragilus Shahur Lo Min Ura. Shkula Keneged Kula. It's Shkula Keneged Kula means it's right. This is 1 zuz, 2 zuz, 10 parsa, 1 parsa. This 1 parsa is Keneged Kula. It's equal, right? You're paying the same thing. And then the Alter Rebbe says, "V'eila al gabein." It actually is even more. The yeser seis v'yeseros. It's a new category. You just went to a different level. Liyes nikra eved alikim. That now you are an eved alikim. Now you're a servant. You're a fighter. Atalochem mipnei. Why is that? Why is it so transformative? Shekedei lishanois teva regilus tzarich la'eder sa'aval Hashem, because you have to touch a deeper point. You need to be inspired. You have to have the koiches, and that only happens with his beininus. Al yedei shemizbeinin bigdulas Hashem b'moyachei. And once you put the moyach in the right place, it has the ability lishloit ala teva shebachol lasmoli. That you're able to overpower the physical part of the body, that the teva comes from. I just want to say, sitting there was a vort. There are people who learn Meya Pa'amin. Then there are people who learn Meya Pa'amin. But there's Echad, Hashem Echad is part of it. So that's the, right? So from the first one, it's already different, right? It's Apoponim. So the Zohi, that's that's the real Avodah. Real Avodah, yeah, that's Avodah Tama. That's the Avodah B'Shleimus of a Beinini, to go against the Nefesh HaBamis. To be in a Mulchama with the Nefesh HaBamis. The last words of the Perek, it's a little bit cryptic. The Alter Rebbe says like this, Oy. The Oyre Sa'avam Suteres Shebeliber. Now the emes, based on what we said before, the Avam Suteres does not have the power to develop real Avos Hashem. The Avam Suteres doesn't. Let me put it this way: the Avam Suteres is a heart project. It's not a mind project. It's not a hisbonenus. It's a feeling. It's like I remember, when I was working in JLI, we were talking about marketing and how to reach people and things like that. And then we were driving somewhere and someone played one of these old concerts in Eretz Yisrael that Tzach made. You know what I'm talking? Like in the 70s, with Zalman Bronstein and whatever they had, the choir, and I'm listening to this thing, and there's an MC, maybe it was Chefer was the MC, and they had the concert was 5 pieces, right? One was in Russian, because all the people there spoke Russian, like Niet Nikavod, Payusia, whatever. One was about Israel, right? One is about people in the Iron Curtain. One was about orphans. It's like each one was a tear jerker, pulling the strings. Like it was just like going for the kishkas. It was like every piece that they started, like freeing Yerushalayim, right, east and west. I mean, it was like every emotional. It was crazy. I'm listening to this. I'm like, that's the Avam Mesoteres. There's no seichel. It's just playing with the emotions. So you're not putting the brain in the position of control. So where is this kafya going to come from? You're still full of emotion. You're not a seicheldike mensch. But the Alter Rebbe somehow, he says, you can also control the nefesh habamis with intense emotion to Hashem. He says, "Oila eiris ha'avam zeteres shebelibei, limshel al yoda al ateva shebechol asmoli, shezu nikra gam ken avoda." It's also an avoda. Li'ilachim im ateva va'yetzer al yidei sheme'eir ha'avam zeteres belibei. By thinking about it a lot, that we love Hashem, you could do some iskafia you could have. If you're not fighting and you're not going against the nefesh habamis, ein avazu mitzat atzma nekras avidasa kol. That's not your avodah. You're serving Hashem. You're a beinani, but you're not a oived Hashem. Hashem gave you that. Hashem gave that to you. Anyway, I'll just say, and yashkei after those.